Well, hey, Chuck, thanks for coming on the show tonight. It's good talking to you.
Always good to talk to you, Cap.
All right, so the Supreme Court in a 5-4 decision earlier today said that California is going to have to release somewhere between, I guess around 32,000 inmates from the state prison system, saying that too overcrowded, that the inmates are not getting proper medical care. The dissent, including Justice Antonin Scalia's dissent. There are actually two dissenting opinions. He called the ruling, quote, staggering and absurd, and he said that the majority were ordering the release of, quote, 46,000 happy-go-lucky felons. He also said terrible things are sure to happen as a consequence of this outrageous order. So, Chuck, I mean, first of all, what's your take on the Supreme Court's decision?
Well, this is an Eighth Amendment-based case, if I understand it correctly, and I haven't had time to study the opinion yet, but I've certainly read enough about it online. First of all, it has national precedent. I mean, obviously, anything that comes out of the United States Supreme Court affects us all across the country, not just California. Now, California may have the most acute overpopulation problem, prison overpopulation problem, and it's been being litigated for years. And again and again and again, the state loses. And rather than this is like Medicare and Social Security, I mean, this is the problem that the California has known about for years, but the legislators are too irresponsible to do something about it. And part of the reason is because the prison guards union controls how prisons are handled. So they haven't allowed any out-of-state transfers. They haven't allowed private prison facilities to be built because the union wants to control their ability to be the ones who get paid and get those generous pensions that California public employees get. So this is the price we're paying. Now, I'm not sure exactly whether I'm not sure this will be quite as much of a sort of a doomsday portrayal as Justice Scalia is saying, because what sometimes happens is that the worst of the worst stay in prison. Mm-hmm. They will transfer some of perhaps the less worse offenders to county jail. They may be able to get some things loosened up with this kind of a ruling where they can actually ship some of these prisoners out of state. By the way, there are many states that are just dying to help California with its overpopulation
I'm
problem.
Sure
they want
are.
the business.
Yeah.
And so some of those things might happen, but I think what may happen is this is sort of a trickle-down thing where the county jails won't have room for the less violent offenders, and we're already seeing, and I mean like traffic offenders, one step above a speeding ticket. Mm-hmm. It's a misdemeanor, you weren't driving with your driver's license in your possession type of thing. Those types of what were typically treated as crimes are now being moved over and treated more like a civil violation where you pay a fine or do some community service or something and you don't get that criminal conviction. And so there's a lot of kind of games being played because, the state has taken a lot of the money from the cities. So now the cities, when they prosecute these low-level offenses, they want the people to write a check to the city rather than to the state, because the state has taken the city's money away. So there's a lot of games being played, but it's still, even with all those nuances, it's still kind of a shocking decision. And I tell you what, it just goes to show that the state cannot protect us. They can't protect us by keeping the bad guys in jail, and they can't protect us by managing their money, our money, I should say, well enough to be able to staff a police force without going bankrupt. So this just is all the more reason why people need to be able to defend themselves. You cannot count on the government defending you.
Yeah. No, I think it's an excellent point. And, at some point, you talk about the trickle-down effect. I mean, what happens now when, to all of the people in California today, for instance, that were sentenced to prison, and tomorrow, those who were sentenced to prison? I mean, this is a problem, Chuck. It seems like California's going to have to deal with, because not only are you going to have to release the 30-some-odd thousand inmates that are currently behind bars, but it seems like the Supreme Court has said, all right, California's prison capacity is capped. What about the new ones that are going in every day?
That's right. And, there's a lot of debate in the Capitol, in fact, about remember, this is the nanny state.
Right.
So they want to pass any law they can. They love making things criminal. But there's a big debate in Sacramento right now about creating any new felonies. They don't want to pass any laws that would create a new felony because they don't want to have to house the people who violate the law. So, except, of course, for gun control laws, because that makes everybody feel safer. And, we want people to feel safe, even though they aren't actually safe. We can't trust them to make the decision for themselves. We got to placate the public by passing feel-good legislation.
I mean, it is amazing that, they're doing this at the same time. You've got the legislature working on an open carry ban, and, of course, the judge in the Peruta case down in San Diego said, well, look, as long as you can open carry, then there's no reason to have a shall issue concealed carry statute. I mean, taking all of this together, Chuck, you are left with a state that says, all right, we're going to put thousands of criminals back onto the streets, and we're going to tell you that you can't defend yourself outside of your home.
Right, and don't forget that the most important legislation that's going on out here by our friend Kevin DeLeon, who is the architect behind a lot of these gun control laws, is his law to make it illegal to use, make it so that all hotels have to use fitted sheets or face criminal prosecution. So, we're taking care of the big issues out here, Cam. We're really taking care of the problems and straightening things out for the state of California.
That's right. Thousands of inmates getting released, but hey,
Rome is not burning.
Your
it's not
sheets
on
will be
fire.
fitted.
Go ahead and play your fiddle.
Well, I may be coming out to California next month, Chuck, for a firsthand look, and I hope that if I get out there, I'll be able to see you and say hi while I'm there.
Are you going to be broadcasting? Come on down to the office.
I don't know if we're going to be broadcasting. I'm going to be out there over a weekend for the Hollywood Celebrity Sporting Clays Invitational. So,
well, you definitely need to come say hello.
All right, Chuck. Thank you so much. If I'm allowed to do that, they may have passed a law by barring me from saying hello by then.
Cam, let me make sure I mention that tomorrow, or actually today, we will be filing our opening brief in that Peruta case that you mentioned out of San Diego. And within the next week, you'll see a flurry of friend of the court amicus briefs being filed as well from some very big lawyers and some very big parties, including the Law Enforcement Training Association, which is going to put the lie to the notion that carrying an unloaded firearm unconcealed and then only being able to load it when you are under attack is not an adequate means of self-defense. In case there was anybody out there who couldn't figure that out for themselves, we'll be putting that before the court through the professional law enforcement training group. So
excellent.
Folks should watch for that. There'll be an alert going out, I'm sure, from CRPA Foundation and NRA and Cal Gun Laws. So.
All right. Well, I'm sure
it's going to be a busy week.
I'm sure we'll be talking to you again very soon then, Chuck. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program tonight.
Thanks, Cam.
Chuck Michel, California civil rights attorney, joining us here on Cam & Company.